There is trouble brewing on the island of New Caledonia, and the French government has decided that banning TikTok is the best way to manage the conflict. Let's delve into the details. New Caledonia is an island in the Pacific Ocean that has been under French rule since 1853. It is inhabited by the Kanaks, who are the natives of the land. It is one of the largest nickel producers in the world, making it a significant economic asset for France. It is because of this that the French government is unwilling to risk the loss of control over this resource-rich territory, located in the strategic Indo-Pacific region. But as time went by, people from various places also settled on the island, diluting its inhabitants of Kanaks to a mixture of Europeans, Asians, and other ethnicities. Over the years, there have been serious tensions between the natives and the French government. The Kanaks have long sought autonomy from France due to persistent issues of poverty, underdevelopment, and unemployment. However, their attempts to gain attention and justice from France have consistently fallen on deaf ears. Despite the wealth generated from nickel mining, the indigenous Kanak population in New Caledonia has not seen the same benefits as others. High unemployment rates, poor living conditions, and limited access to education and healthcare have created a sense of frustration and calls for more economic justice. The recent riots, however, are about more than just economic issues. The Kanak people have faced cultural suppression and political marginalization for years. French policies often favored European settlers, making the Kanaks feel excluded and disenfranchised. This sense of exclusion has only been intensified by the outcomes of recent independence referenda. In 2018, the first referendum showed a 56.4% vote to remain part of France, and a 2020 referendum showed a 53.3% vote against independence. These close results highlighted the deep divisions within New Caledonian society. Many Kanaks believe these outcomes reflect systemic inequalities and potential manipulation by pro-French settlers. These historical grievances, combined with recent frustrations, have contributed to the tensions. But what broke the camel's back was the recent law amendment. Lawmakers expanded the criteria for those eligible to vote in provincial elections. Previously, voting was restricted to residents of New Caledonia before 1998, and their descendants, effectively making the Kanaks the majority of voters. However, the French National Assembly approved an amendment that allows individuals who have lived in New Caledonia for at least 10 years to participate in local elections. This change adds about 25,000 people to the voter pool, significantly diluting the Kanaks' voting power. Unsurprisingly, the Kanaks were displeased with this amendment, fearing it would reduce their political influence and further marginalize them. As protests erupted, the initially peaceful gatherings escalated into chaos. The streets of Noumea, the capital, transformed into scenes of destruction with fires, looting, and blockades disrupting daily life. Clashes between rioters and security forces resulted in injuries and fatalities, including the tragic death of a police officer. The estimated damage from the unrest exceeds £200 million, affecting public buildings, businesses, and private homes. In response, authorities declared a state of emergency and swiftly implemented a ban on TikTok on May 15, 2024. They believe that TikTok played a significant role in spreading misinformation and organizing protests during the unrest. The platform had become a powerful tool for dissent, amplifying the voices of protesters across New Caledonia. However, authorities viewed it as a destabilizing force, contributing to the breakdown of law and order. TikTok, with its vast user base and rapid content dissemination capabilities, became the epicenter for organizing protests and sharing real-time updates. Videos showing the scale of the protests' alleged police brutality and calls for further demonstrations went viral, galvanizing more people to join the cause. Hashtags related to the New Caledonian unrest trended on the platform, drawing international attention and support. Authorities argued that TikTok facilitated the spread of false information, inciting violence and exacerbating the unrest. They cited instances where misleading videos and unverified claims about the government's actions circulated widely, creating panic and mistrust among the population. The rapid spread of such content made it challenging for the authorities to manage the narrative and maintain order. Many individuals have turned to VPNs to circumvent the ban and maintain access to the platform. Virtual private networks allow users to bypass geo-restrictions and access blocked content, although these measures hinder the app's performance. Despite these efforts, the effectiveness of TikTok in rallying people has diminished under the weight of the restrictions. Additionally, a vigorous debate over the legality and ethical implications of the ban has emerged. Many are questioning the legal basis of the ban and whether it constitutes a justifiable and proportionate response to the unrest. Concerns about censorship and the infringement of personal freedoms have been raised, with some residents expressing apprehension about the erosion of civil liberties in the name of restoring order. Critics argue that the ban on TikTok is a form of digital repression, aiming to silence dissent rather than address the underlying causes of the protests. However, amidst the dissent and controversy, some view the government's decision with understanding and acceptance. Recognizing the need to quell further violence and restore stability in the aftermath of the riots, these individuals perceive the ban as a necessary, albeit regrettable, measure. They argue that in times of crisis, extraordinary measures are sometimes required to maintain peace and order. The TikTok ban was not the only measure taken. Authorities dispatched 500 additional French police and gendarmerie to help local forces control the situation. A curfew from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. has been imposed in Nouméa to ensure public safety, restricting movement to essential travel only. Schools in affected areas have been temporarily closed to protect students and staff. The La Tontuta International Airport is closed, with all flights canceled until at least May 17th to prevent further escalation. Moreover, the unrest in New Caledonia has drawn international attention, with human rights organizations expressing concern over the French government's heavy-handed response. They argue that the underlying issues of inequality and lack of political representation for the Kanaks need to be addressed to achieve lasting peace. Meanwhile, some New Caledonian leaders have called for renewed dialogue with the French government to find a mutually acceptable solution that respects the rights and aspirations of the indigenous population. Internationally, the ban on TikTok has sparked discussions about digital censorship and freedom of expression. Some foreign governments and digital rights organizations have criticized France's approach, suggesting that banning a social media platform is an overreach that could set a dangerous precedent. They emphasize the importance of addressing the root causes of the unrest rather than restricting digital platforms that facilitate communication and organization among protesters. As of today, the riots persist. It remains to be seen what further steps the French government will take to restore order and address the underlying issues in New Caledonia. The situation remains tense, with the Kanaks and their supporters continuing to demand meaningful political and economic changes.